God, I want to die. I can't take it anymore. These people that you have called me to, they've rejected you over and over again. I've had enough. They're not going to follow you. They've rejected your word. They're not following your ways. Why do I even waste my time with them? I just want to lay here underneath this broom tree and die. Take my life. I'm through. It was only a few days ago when we had a great and wonderful showdown on top of Mount Carmel. I have gathered all the false prophets of Baal to come and to build an altar and call upon the name of their Lord. And I said, you will build your altar, and I will build an altar to Yahweh, the Lord our God, and we will see who truly reigns over Israel. And so they went to work, and they built their altar, and they prepared their sacrifice, and they got everything ready, and nothing happened. Some more time passed, and they're calling, and they're praying, and they're calling out to their God, and still nothing is happening. Finally, it's getting to be about lunchtime, and I thought, I'm going to have a little fun with these guys. Why don't you yell a little louder? Maybe your God is sleeping. And so I taunted them, and I made fun of them, and nothing happened. After their time was over, it was time for me to prepare my sacrifice. And so I took 12 stones representing the 12 tribes of Israel, and I prepared my altar there for the Lord. I prepared the sacrifice and was going to call upon the name of Yahweh, the Lord our God. But just to make sure that I couldn't be accused of pulling any fancy tricks, I wanted to prove to Israel once and for all that the Lord their God was Yahweh, that Yahweh was to be the Lord their God. And so I told them to fill up the jars full of water and to douse the entire sacrifice in the altar with water, not once, not twice, but 3 times until the puddles were just surrounding this altar. And then I prayed. And I called upon the name of the Lord our God. And the Lord received my sacrifice. Finally, you think this would have been enough. And so I had the false prophets of Baal put to death. And I had the Asherah poles removed. And what did they do, Lord? They wanted to kill me. I've had enough of these people. These people that are supposed to be the Lord's, and yet they turn their back on God. They refuse to follow the Lord's way. And so I ran. This evil woman Jezebel, this queen of Israel, is pulling the people away from the Lord, pulling their hearts away, causing them to fall into temptation. They are weak. They are unable to resist, and so they give in. And they follow her ways instead of the Lord's. I'm sick of it. There is no one left, Lord. I'm the only one left. These people are useless. Can't I just lie here underneath this tree and die? And so I ran away. I wanted to get as far away as I possibly could. And so I went to the southernmost region of Israel. I went to the southernmost extent of the kingdom. And there I left my servant behind me. And I traveled a day further into the wilderness to let the people know that I was done. I was through with them. I was done with Israel once and for all. I was abandoning them. I was abandoning my call as a prophet. And so I went into the wilderness. I found a broom tree, and I lay underneath that tree, and I asked the Lord to take my life. But as I lay there, the Lord sent an angel to appear to me. And the angel provided me with bread and water. And so I woke, and I ate the bread, and I drank the water. But it wasn't enough. And so I lay back down there. And once again, the angel of the Lord appeared to me, told me to get up, to eat, to drink. And after receiving nourishment from the Lord for a second time, I was able to get up and continue my journey to Mount Horeb, the place where Moses had received the 10 Commandments, this holy mountain of God, Mount Sinai. And so I got up and I traveled for 40 days and for 40 nights. And as you might imagine, after 40 days of traveling, I was a little bit exhausted. And so I found a crack in the side of the mountain. I found a cave and I crawled in and I spent the night there. And while I was sleeping, the Lord came to me and appeared to me, and I heard a voice saying, "Elijah, what are you doing here?" Well, Lord, I'm the only one left. These people, they're useless. I'm done. I'm through with them. But the Lord told me to get up, for the Lord was about to pass by. Just then I heard this mighty wind, this wind that was enough to shake the entire mountain, blowing rocks apart, blowing them to pieces, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind came a mighty earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. After the fire came the sound of sheer silence. There it was. The voice of God. There in that moment of sheer silence, the Lord spoke to me. It wasn't enough for me to just receive nourishment from the Lord in my hard times. But I had to look for the Lord all around me. And you know what? The Lord didn't necessarily show up in the ways that I expected. But then when I looked for the Lord, I found the Lord in the sound of that sheer silence. God was able to use that silence to speak to me, to minister to my heart and to my needs. You see, it's not enough to just live off of those triumphant moments in our faith. Sure, the showdown on Mount Carmel was great. There was nothing better in my ministry of all the things that happened and all the wonderful things. Yet that wasn't enough to sustain me. I needed to pay attention to those still, small, quiet moments. Those moments that happen every day in our lives. Those moments in which it might seem like God is silent. Those moments when God is still there, even in that silence. I needed to pay attention to those small, subtle ways that the Lord was speaking to me, and to rely on God daily, to strengthen my relationship with the Lord daily by paying attention to Him. And so the Lord told me to get up. The Lord told me to go back to Damascus, to continue my ministry. For I was not alone. I could only see my own despair. I could only see the pit of my own depression. And I failed to see how the Lord was at work all around me. I failed to see that I was not alone. I failed to recognize the work of God in my life. And I failed to see and to hear God in the sound of the sheer silence. So pay attention to the Lord. Watch for the Lord always. Turn to the Lord for your nourishment. Take care of your physical needs, the needs of your body, but also take care of the needs of your soul. And when those dark, quiet times come, listen for God and the sound of the sheer